All right. Sharing again, everyone. Yes. Okay. Seeing it. Okay. So the items we'll talk about are first, step away from the computer. Don't start with the computer. How to implement that, we'll bring that back in, but the professional design process does not begin with sitting in front of Pool Studio and starting to draw a line with a mouse. We're going to talk about the site analysis plan. So we've kind of been on site now and talked about what we see, but now we're going to take that data and put it together in a graphic form. We'll spend a good bit of time talking about the bubble diagram and sort of the relational, the relationships that the different areas have that's in your project program. And then we'll push on to the concept sketch and talk about the how to basically get still by hand sketch to add the spatial theme into the framework that you've created, et cetera. So there's a roadmap. And some of this is going to be, as I was pulling this from different presentations, but yeah, we've got concept design, design development, construction observation phases that we go through. We've been through all that. Okay, so one of the first things that we're going to do is we're going to sit down. We've got our base plan, and we're going to draw a site analysis plan on top of that. And a site analysis plan is just that, all the data that you've gathered from your pictures and your site and your drone and your photo pills and standing there, you're going to want to be able to put that in a graphic form. And you'll overlay the information from the site, whether you show your sun angles, show your north arrow, show where wind is going to come through, where you feel breezes or where you know that you're catching some of that, show where you've got great views, open up in a space and show where things are on that end. This is an idea of kind of what a graphically shown site analysis plan looks like. And notes here, all the things we talked about, we're looking at what's in the site analysis plan. So that's an idea of the analysis plan. Yeah, we're looking at political boundaries is another one, your setbacks, your easements. So I start in our process, we start with a survey, and you should have a survey. Now, I know a lot of projects residentially don't, at least start with one. I used to not really require a survey until it became problematic, where I always do. There may not already be a survey, or the survey just has the boundary survey, so it's got the house located, but it doesn't have the tree and topography to it. Most, in every community is different, but for the most part now, it seems like to get pool permits or pool permit plans, you have to have a official stamp sealed land survey. So that has become something that even if they don't have it, as they get it. So, and then you got to deal with a surveyor, and you got to get on a survey schedule, and they're not cheap, and they take time, and they're slow, and all that. But then, so it's one of the first things I tell a client to do at the beginning in the client meeting is, okay, we're moving forward. If you don't have a survey, here's a couple of surveys surveyors I've done work with. Get on their schedule, get it done, and so that when I'm ready to start the design, I have an actual site survey, which helps a ton, because then when I go out to the site, I can take a plan that the survey plan that's there. It's got the house shown, all the windows, and everything. It's shown where all the stuff are. I've got topo of existing grades, so I know the grades. I'm not guessing on that. And I've got the trees and existing features that are on there too. So I don't have to say this is approximately here or guess where things are. No, the more accurate the information you have on your base plan, the better your design is going to be. The more accurate design is going to be, because you're only as good as your information. And if your information is sketchy, then some of your designs may be sketchy. So I've fought that for a long time. So when I go out to a job, I want a printed version to take out with me, typically 11 by 17 or 18 by 24. And I'll have a grid printed on top of that, which I'll show in a second too. and then I will take some notes and write, bullet points. So I'm looking at boundaries, sun angles, slopes, places that are making noise that are coming from, good views, bad views, drainage. What are the existing features that are on site? They're going to stay. Access, whatever. How do we have construction wise? We're going to be able to get into the space, out of the space. Where do I build an access road to get there, so I don't use the driveway? Soil conditions, a big one there too. You don't have that information typically just on you get a soil survey or the soil test to get that information, but you can get a overlay of the soils map that shows what different types of soils overall. It's not 100% accurate, but it's kind of an idea about what's happening soils wise, because it's a huge part, especially when you get into the construction classes. The soils make all the difference in the world of what you can do and how you tie it in. So these are the data items that I'm trying to present graphically in a way that shows what we're looking for. So another version of that we're looking for, more architectural side, it shows where, from the house, I'll take on the job site when I'm out there, I'll take, show where gutters are located, where the utilities are located, where the views are from the house. I'll draw my sight lines that are coming out through there. This is kind of an example of another example of a good site analysis plan that shows where trees are, where you see sun, where drainage is happening, different ways to graphically show it that works for you. But it's important to actually draw this out and show what it looks like. So, once we have a site analysis plan, then I overlap. Okay, thank you. I forgot to say this. So the site analysis plan comes as an overlay. So if I have my base plan that's been on site and then I print one back in my office and put it down on my desk, that is my 18 by 24, off my plotter sheets that's there. I then will take a piece of vellum or tracing paper or trash paper or whatever you want to call it, the junk paper. You can either do 11 by 17, size sheets, or, on a roll, you can pull it off. That's where you draw both the site analysis plan on top of the base plan that's there. And then you will then start beginning your relational bubble diagram on top of that. And a bubble diagram is where your design starts to come together. You got all your data points. Now it's time for the fun to begin. It's the brainstorming session where you connect the desires of the client with the assets and limitations of the site and consider the architectural style and detail of the home. So we're starting to now graphically put them in locations and see how they relate to each other to create a unique space. So bubble diagrams should be hand-drawn. They should be rough and messy. So everything we're doing here is not starting in a computer where you're sitting down and you're drawing a line by a mouse or wherever you are on your computer program. The computer is a creativity killer. It just absolutely will keep you from letting your brain work to your hand and tie it in. It makes everything, when you start drawing boxes on a computer, everything just gets very compartmentalized. And you draw a box, and then there's another box, and there's another box over here, and it misses the synapse that lets things flow and lets your mind just go. Is what if I try a shape like this and draw on top of it a bunch of times? Or what if I do this? So I'm a huge fan of sketching these items. Now, we're not trying to create artwork. These don't have to be pretty. The examples that I've got here are kind of pretty. I mean, they're, sketchy architectural drawings, etc. I'm going to tell on myself in a minute and show you kind of what I do. Mine aren't pretty. I mean, Chad sees them. I show them some clients sometimes, but they're not meant to be presented. Mine are just Sharpie penned circles, drawing lines, creating. That's not the goal. Isn't to have pretty hand drawing. So I don't care what it looks like. What I care is the thought process that's going behind it, that's creating the design. That's your artwork. So loose and messy is a good thing. Have lots of bubble diagrams, 10, 20 more. Sometimes you start sketching and this, that I like this here. What if I start to play with this? Well, when I do my asymmetrical layout, if I'm on my thirds line, then this side isn't gonna work as well. So I'll scratch another one and try another. What if I put the lawn space is the center here, and then maybe the pool goes up this area because I've got the counterpoint space. You start just considering now with the bubble diagram how you are creating that design framework coming into play. And again, the design framework is the sight lines and guidelines. It's the balance, symmetry or asymmetry, and it's the visual depth, or the where you've got the foreground, midground, background. And then dealing with scale and proportion too. Those are the things we're looking at really hard in the bubble diagram stage as they start to take shape. Another example of a bubble diagram with a little color to it, just nothing of a specific pool related, but kind of a main space and then the offshoots of the space that relate to it, and then maybe these two spaces overlap a little bit and they're connected, and the colors start to show that which ones are related and how access or how you're going to have even or good flow between them. This is a graphic representation of how your design starts to take shape. You lay out the balance, write out all the features that you're going to want to include so you don't leave anything out. Organize the bubbles by how they relate to each other. So. That's opposite to what the standard is that most people do. And this is one that I got. Actually, it was a story behind this one. A client that we did, is one of the ones I've shown several times. I don't have it right here, but I'll show which one this is. But I did a design with a client. This is a difficult site. The client had it's in Brentwood, which is the big suburb of Nashville. The house is here from the survey, tying in a big covered patio, living space, you name it. There is an angled sight line. We've got about 30 foot of elevation change from the road on this side up to the top end on this one. And at an angle that's the setback line here, basically in the city of Brentwood, you can't do anything past the easement line or the setback line. So this, for all practical purposes, is my property line. So I can even put retaining walls on the outside of it. I've got a tight space, and they want to put a pool. And I had done a design that had it had a lot as an arc and tangent style, and it kind of flowed with the space and tied in and whatever, and it looked good. I did the bubble diagram, I did this concept sketch, I did the whole design. And the client liked the design, and then kind of what we're talking about before, Chad was the wet blanket and said, this is what it's going to cost. And he was one of those, I'm not going to pay that. So I said, forget it.
Oh, Kevin.
That's right.
Kevin.
And so he said, forget it. I said, okay, fine. He kind of had the attitude. And then he went and had someone else that came and said, I just want, just put a pool. I just want a pool. So he told another guy, just put a pool back there. So another builder came out there, and a designer came back and put just started what it kind of same space, how do I deal with and whatever else. And they just drew a 20 by 40 rectangle and then offset it with some decking and showed what you put there, put a retaining wall because you need to hold up the space because the drain, everything can't cross the line and whatever. And this is how a lot of design starts without creativity in Pool Studio or in CAD or whatever, where you just drawing a rectangle, offsetting. This is kind of typical to what a lot of people
dimensions,
draw.
Baby.
Dimensions. Nothing sexier than a dimension. Talk dimensions to me. 20 by 40. Ooh, that's exciting. So I don't ever want to hear about a dimension on a plan. So don't talk about how big it is. Talk about where it lines up and what it does and how it makes you feel. So long story longer or short, he got this from another client. He's like, damn it, or another builder, another designer, and came back to me. It's like, whatever, just do what you were going to do. So we ended up taking this and scrapping it and going back to where we were going to do, and that ended up being a very nice project that worked with the site and tied in and has an architecture style and whatever. And so
It's the one with the bocce ball court that we
but yeah. So I'll show it again later. It's I know somewhere in here. So um inherently boring design when you just follow what the computer tries to make you do. It's like this is the computer says draw boxes, you draw boxes, and that's what where most people kind of end up, or just three bubble, no trouble. You know, circle, 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 line them up, connect them, boom, there you go. So this, and this is kind of telling on myself, but kind of my level of graphics that I do when I'm just creating internal projects. This is one we did, another Kevin, different Kevin, um, small, that has the house comes out here. I think I showed this. I did. I showed this one the other day, at least this first part of it, where the what do you call it? The fireplace blocks the view from the main living patio. I still end up with a nice sight line that's coming out here. I've got another sight line coming out of the bar area. I've got a cross sight line that comes across the when I'm talking about the pool framework. So it's kind of symmetry starts to come into play down that center line there. Minor view line. So this is where I'm starting to create my frame, and the site is starting to tell me what I can do with the site after my site analysis visit is there. But then I go to my bubble diagram. So this is kind of what I do for a bubble diagram, where I've got one of the key things in this design that he wanted to do was we've got the barn is the big thing. He entertains for up to 150 people at a time, a few times basically with their young life group that they host. So a couple of like once a month, they'll have 150 people come and spend, the evening out on the site. So it's got to be some big spaces, primarily in the barn. They've got pickleball in the barn and all the stuff, big great lawn on this side they want to have. So that ties in, and you can see I'm overlaying on top of my before. No, it's next. Hang on. Come on. Back. Going the wrong way. There we go. Okay. So my site is here. I'm overlaying a piece of trash paper. I'm going back down. So now my bubble die, you can see it underneath it. It's there. He wanted to have a pavilion on this side. The pavilion couldn't be a covered pavilion because of the code. You can only have one accessory structure, which is the barn. But we could do the louvered screen type pergola that's allowed. So we're talking about making a large pavilion space. So that's going to be, well, I know I want that on my sight line. That's a big thing, a big piece. So I'm going to bring it down a sight line through here, but I also want it to line up with something off the house as well. So I've got that space. Now I could put it right here, but then it's kind of blocking my view. It's a major view, so I don't want it to block a view. And I know I want a big view, something to pay attention. Don't know what it is yet, but I want some key feature. Boom. I just put a star back here that I'm doing it. I want something back here that's going to be interesting, that's pay attention to out the main, the B-dub bar space through there. And I know I want something out my main view from the center line of the house kitchen coming out to something key feature or whatever back through here. So I've got that, and I've got that, and I've got a pavilion that I don't want to block views, but I still needs to kind of be behind the house. So I got a pavilion. So that I know I'm going to anchor that space down my sight line, my more minor guideline right through here. Well, the pavilion, I know we want the louvered screen because that's the way it has to be. That's a bubble. This is the outdoor kitchen. He's a grill master, likes to have a lot of space. We've got the kitchen space in there. We want a TV wall as the backdrop through there. We want to have a hangout space. So all these things are related to the pavilion. So I've got my red Sharpie, and I'm kind of saying these are the pieces I'm going to put in my space there. And we also talked about like a fire pit, fire feature or something. So well, that could relate to here, but maybe that would be a cool item to have on my main sight line coming out. So what if the fire pit relates to the pavilion, but that's an integration element where I'm integrating the pavilion and the pool and the fire pit kind of together. in that case. And then my view from the master house goes over some pool steppers that could wrap around over the fire pit, maybe some more steppers. And I still need something, don't know what it is back here, but something back here. And then we started talking about they have bands that play, so they want a band stage and a bunch of stuff to have that going on. So we've got the backdrop space through here. Let's make a stage for the band, and it's got some views, but it's actually the neighbors behind them built a landscape screen just to be jerks. So even though it's sort of a nice pastoral space behind it, they just wanted to make sure they couldn't see anything. So they built, so I don't have great views anymore. So I talked about, maybe we've got screen plantings to help screen the screen that's there. A great lawn space. It's tying in terraced lawns. Let's make our band stage have something to do with the lawn element, because I can't bring, again, we're back in Brentwood, so I can't bring any hardscape past this line, which you can see underneath there. So I can't put retaining walls other than stone boulder style retaining walls. I can't do decking, so it all has to be turf back here. And if we got 150 people at a time, we want to have a place that's, a lawn back here. And then, so I kind of made a bubble, and this bubble ended up turning into, what if we had a cornhole tournament space, and we made it a place with, it's like got a stone bordered edge, and then even did like a pergola, if you will, on top of that too, with the lights and the overhead thing to make like 3 cornhole courts for the young life groups to come and play. So that's overflow for parties and events and turf and tying in. So we're starting to build how the spaces are going to work and talk to each other. We got the great lawn that's down here in the barn, parking for the barn, entrances, etc. Something here, didn't know what, not sure what this is going to be, but it needs to be something in here, how the ties in with the house. But you know what I haven't talked about at all yet?
The pool.
The pool. Everything so far has been, what are the features that we're going to aim towards, and how are we taking out to the fire pit something cool? The key feature, band stage, barn. Now I've got space that I'm going to fill in the gaps. The negative space becomes the pool, and I'm designing to features. They can be water features, they can be parts of the pool, but I'm not designing to a swimming pool and going out. I'm designing everything else, and then I'm kind of saying, okay, now let's connect the dots with water, and that creates an inherently more interesting space. So the pool element becomes geometric, kid jump area, overflow edge. We've got like 10 feet of elevation change on this end that falls down. So this makes a good space for an edge. Spa, something, maybe a Watner edge, sun lounge space, a different thing. Now I'm starting to think about the pool, because I've left kind of a gap for it, and I'm designing 2 elements that I want. So I go from my bubble diagram, and then I move to start putting some spatial theme to that. So you can kind of see, again, I've got my site plan and my grid lines, my layout lines underneath. And I'm starting to say, well, I've got my barn still over here. I've got my pavilion. I'm creating this place for the cornhole tournament. You can kind of see the thing that's going to be back there. The cornhole goes in the middle through there. The pavilion's got the outdoor kitchen space. It's got a hangout space with a big TV wall, and it's got kind of the cigar seating space on that all covered. And then I'm thinking, well, down this line, I talked about a fire feature that's in here that kind of relates here too. What if that fire feature is sunken? And what if we take it where you cross over the pool? Instead of just ending the pool right here, let's make the pool kind of wrap around and do the sunken fire feature with a fire pit in the middle that's right down that center line through there, and then ties in, and then it brings your view out across. This becomes a cool space. And then go back up through there, and you wrap it around to the water, and then the water ties up with some steppers that go up to where the pavilion's going to be. So I start fleshing out and playing with some shapes, and this becomes a neat little area. So, all right, I like that. And then I'll go down this line here, and I've got my main sight line through here. I'm going over the pool. I do a little raised scupper wall with some turf, on the synthetic turf. We got the loungers that are there, and the band stage is behind the loungers, so you're not like crowded. If your band's there, you can actually sit by here and look at the band and whatever. And then since I've got bad views now behind here with the neighbor screening it, I put up a cantilevered pergola wall in the back, so it gives me a good backdrop view that's interesting through there. Everything I'm going kind of rectilinear is my overall theme through here. Steppers across, ins and outs on lounge, tying in. It still was playing with what this is, some kind of a water fire feature that relates to the barn, my spillover edge. All my stuff is starting to tie together. And I mentioned this before, kind of being the consistency of spatial theme. I went instead, so I did the whole thing as rectilinear, and I had this as a spa that's a rectangle spa coming in through here. And I just, this was squared off too. Everything was a rectangle. And this just, it felt nice, and there were cool features to it, but it just didn't have it's a little boring. So I wanted to do something to spice it up. So, and I was staring at it, looking at it from different angles, and said, what if I make the spa round instead of squares? So everything else rectilinear tying in through here, but I'm going to make the spa a circle instead. So I'm breaking my, know the rules, so you know when to break the rules, rectilinear through everything. But I'm going to intentionally create some contrast here where the shapes are contrasting. I'm raising it up, maybe doing an acrylic raise. I'll kind of talk through a couple of ideas on that. So that becomes a contrast space. But if I've got that as a circle, it's the only thing. What if I instead here made a semicircle out of the band stage and because it's elevated a little bit, and I've got a two-stepper seat wall or raised space where you could have the band sitting a little higher. So that is a circle. So I've got a circle and a circle that's right here. That's kind of cool, but I want to have three. I don't want to do two. This now feels unbalanced. If I'm there, I need something on my thirds line coming across here that brings that in too. So I said, let's design, what about one of those cool chandeliers that's the big circle with the lights on it and whatever, because it kind of got the modern style. So then I've got sort of three circles that are starting to play off each other, and I'm getting some interesting factor. And then maybe this ties in with whatever this is. The space starts to have a little bit of a circle and square and tie in. So you start to see the mental progression of a design build from I've got nothing here to bubble diagram to concept sketch. And this is what we're going to do for our project ahead. So take the site that you get to build, and then give it a bubble diagram, and then give it a concept sketch. So that's, I think, the last one I have of that. Another one that I have that's less or more refined. I did it on PDF instead of by sketch, but to show it better. But it shows sight lines out the house, where different nodes intersect, adding fire and looking at where trees were, and how we did you can see my hand sketch underneath of what the space, kind of again rectilinear space. Didn't break that rectilinear this time, kept it as all rectilinear spaces. The pool becomes the void space. I'm not designing to the pool, I'm kind of designing over the pool, where I've got a main sight line coming out of the living area of the house that lines up to a big natural tree, and a fire pit feature that's sunken, is lower. It's not internal sunken, but it's on the outside. You'll see in a second. And then a couple of fireballs. Maybe it's an acrylic panel and the spa raised, and tying in all the different features that start to build the framework of a design. And then the sketchiness below adds the spatial theme in the concept phase. And then that turned into the vinyl design, which had you kind of see those same, where that built from. You've got the coming out of the house here, you've got the center line, the big existing tree, and I've got the lowered turf finished fire pit with acrylic panels and fire bowls on the corner, and the spa is off center. It's very asymmetrical. I'm a big asymmetrical guy. Just most of the stuff I do. Thinking outside the box instead of just doing deck through here or do patio with steppers. I reversed it and did the grass as the stepper. So kind of did a reverse piece, which made it that kind of an interesting element to tie in. The workout rooms over there, the pool house is over here. It balances out. They've got their 50-foot lap lane they wanted. Patio spaces create. So anyway, so that led to this. From considering sight lines, balance lines, place accent features on points of interest. What are the points of interest? Water feature, fire feature, decorative structures, accent ornamental plantings, sculptural art pieces, earth, fire, wind, water element, not the pool. The pool itself is not the feature that we're designing to. We're kind of designing all the other elements and then filling the gaps with the pool. And that was the sort of modeled space of that. So you can see that big tree and what it does and how it ties in and the balance works. Everything kind of comes together. Water is a connector. It's a negative space pool design. Any design that you can name the shape of a pool, it's a Roman end, it's a rectangle, it's a whatever, is inherently a more boring design. It creates interest when you do different things. The best pool designs are one that cannot be described as a shape, and especially not by a dimension. So last few examples, this again applying, kind of getting to the concept stage after the bubble diagram. This arc and tangent spatial theme. The deck is the patios, or excuse me, the lawn has a distinct shape. The planters have a distinct shape, arc and tangent, tying in a little bit of a mix of diagonal and arc and tangent to create an interesting overall design space. We're circular. Everything's kind of version of cutouts or circulars. Everything's a different radius of a circle that's going through here for the most part. A few things aren't, but for the most part, everything is you can see that's definitely a circular design. And this is where you're overlaying the spatial theme on top of the framework that you build in your bubble diagram. Another angled or diagonals throughout, and then has one curve, but the diagonals overall.